Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the 13th Annual Chautauqua Park Open, Round 1, Back 9. This tournament brought to you by Copaya Collision Center. Huge thank you to them for sponsoring the tournament. And I don't know if I mentioned this in the front 9, but huge thank you to John Holmes for providing the drone footage for each of the holes. So without him, these hole breakdowns would not be possible, so big thank you. So, starting off, hole 10, par 3. This is about 320-ish feet. There's only a little bit of OB on this hole here in this deep green that we're just passing over there. If you are in there, you're likely to be OB because it's a swamp, and so if you're surrounded by water, it's OB. But aside from that, the left and right side is just rough. And then here's the basket on this little hill that's pretty fast. So if you get up onto this hill, you got to be a little bit careful. Up first, Mason. This is just a little bit too turned, so I don't believe he ended up OB with this shot, but he'll be in the rough. Silas up next. And I don't know if you can see that tee pad, but that is glistening with the water, so it's not a lot of grip there. And as you see, Silas slips on there, releases way, way to the right. Here's Chad. A little bit too much turn. He'll end up over there with Mason. Thunder also slipping and ending up on the left side, but I don't believe he ended up OB. I believe he just landed on a nice dry spot, so we'll see. I think this is Mason. Yeah, good out. Excellent shot from that position. Here's Thunder. Cameo for my umbrella there. A great bid here, filling up with a pretty easy par. Oh, that was Silas first then. So this is Mason now. Giving this a great run too. He'll end up with an easy par. And finally Chad. Catching a little bit of greenery there. He'll end up a little bit further than he would like, but should still be a par for him. Yeah, as we see, tapping in his par.
Don't mind if I tap?
Mason tapping in his par. Thunder from probably 15 feet. No worries there. And then that's Mason's disc, or Silas's disc right there. They're both wearing the same color jacket, so I get confused. There we go. Very committed putts here. Moving on to hole 11, par 3. I believe this is only 280 feet, but we'll see when the graphic shows up. And this is another straight shot. Big surprise. Once again, the only OB is going to be this creek here that we're just now seeing. The left and right side, no OB. It's just really, really rough if you get in there. So this is basically the mirror of the last hole. Instead of the basket being on the right side, it's on the left side. The green is still pretty fast. It's pretty flat and dry with all these leaves. So you basically want to just pipe a mid-range or a putter down the middle and get a nice soft finish, which is what Mason is trying to do here. And kind of hard to follow where this went. Unfortunately, don't have catch cam. Not yet anyway, so we'll see where they ended up. I think he ended up in the dry spot on the creek. Silas pulling this one a little bit right, it looks like. But he actually ends up in a pretty, at least pin high, but further to the left. Here we have Chad. Just piping something down the middle. Looks like he gets a little bit of a kick, but he'll end up in circle 2 for a bid. And here we have Thunder. Looks like he's trying to turn an overstaple disc over a little bit. Unfortunately, this ends up in the creek on the left side. Over here we've got Chad for his birdie look. And it's in. A great putt.
Oh my gosh, it's a basket.
I thought that was too far right.
I knew it was in.
Yeah, out of his hand,
Especially
Chad
after
was
you
like,
said
oh,
that.
that's
And I
that's
was
not
like,
in.
that's definitely not.
Mason, also good for his two. Silas for his birdie look. And he's also in. Three amazing birdies. And unfortunately,
Wow.
Thunder did end up OB in that creek there. His disc is just there in front of his knee, if you can see that. And just a little bit low on his par save. So he'll have the tap in bogey. And we're going to move on to hole 12. Hole 12, probably the hardest par 3 here. It's not a straight shot. It's amazing, isn't it? We're getting some diversity finally. You've got a straight shot for about 250 feet. And then it goes uphill about 50 feet. It doesn't go uphill straight 50 feet. I'm sorry. I mean to say diagonally about 50 feet. So the drone's taking you the straight way. That's nearly impossible to get the birdie on, but this hole is impossible to get a birdie on, so no big surprises there. Sharp left turn, and then straight up the hill there you see the basket, and there's just all the trees here. So there's really not a good shot to get up to the basket. You basically want to just pipe it down the middle as straight as you can get, as far as you can get, and then have a jump putt at the basket or a nice easy layup. Mason getting really lucky through the gap there, not hitting a tree. This creek is technically OB, but hopefully that doesn't come into play. Silas up now. Letting loose really, really late. So he'll be up on the hill on the right side.
It went where I wanted to, which was weird, because I didn't think it was
Chad yanking this one to the right. I don't know if this was planned, but I don't think so. He ends up in the middle, though, so he'll have a pretty easy look for his par.
so good. No, I don't know.
Thunder going forehand roller, hits the first tree, and he'll end up over at the am tee. So, yeah. And this was an amazing shot. I'm really sad we don't have catch cam because he's right next to the basket now from being horribly out of position.
Nice shot. Good shot, Thunder.
Chad leaving this really, really wide. Unfortunately, he'll have a 30-footer or so for his par. Silas putting it pretty close to the basket. And here's Mason. This was his drive. This was amazing. This is the best drive I've ever seen. And just leaving it really uncommitted, unfortunately. It's hard to give it the height when the basket is so high. Chad giving this a good run, but just fading out a bit early. Oh, I thought he ended up next to the basket. I'm sorry. I lied. I do that. Thunder, still good for his par. Great recovery shot for being so far out of position.
Yeah.
Chad with the unfortunate bogey.
Good recovery.
Mason and Silas should be tapping in their pars here. Battle putt. Silas gonna count him down, but moving on. Hole 13. I believe this is hole 13. Let me just make sure I'm not misspeaking. Yep, hole 13. Par 3. This is a pretty tough hole, but very gettable. It's only about 180 feet, maybe 220. It is pretty far uphill, but you know, if you've got a stock forehand, you can get up here. So lefties will really like it for the easy backhand. Mason up first. Pulling this one to the left and getting a pretty favorable kick out, to be honest. Silas yanking this one way far left and not getting a favorable kick, but he'll still have an okay look to get up and down. Thunder. Pure in the gap, getting a nice little skip up towards the basket, and he'll have a great look for his birdie. And power sidearm thrower Chad Sherbert. Throwing this one nice and high and fades in right underneath the basket. There's Silas, pretty far out of position, but not in the worst spot. He can still get up and down. As you see, he's just on the out edge of the rough. Smooth in that one up there. He'll have a pretty easy par save. Mason from edge of circle 2, mid circle 2. Just fading out a little bit early. And you'll see he's got about a 15 or so footer here. And all day. Not the grocery chain, but all day as in a length of time. Yeah, Thunder for his birdie look. Going a little bit long of the basket, but still only about 15 or so feet. Maybe closer. And of course he's good for it. Silas tapping in his par and Chad for his birdie. Moving on to hole 14. Hole 14, par 4 in this position. This first shot's really, really important. You want to get a nice turnover. Ideally a turnover. You can do the forehand, but it tends to fade further to the right than you'd like. So a turnover backhand will start coasting a little bit closer to the where the basket is. So around here you want it to straighten out and hold that straight angle. Keep holding, and then probably fade out a little bit over here. So in this position it's actually a par 3. As you'll notice when we're playing, the basket's actually moved over about 80 feet further to the right in that clearing over there. So this is round 2, this is the pin position, but round 1 it is further to the right and a par 4. Oh. I think this is a par 4. I could be wrong. I've been wrong before. Chad throwing that great turnover backhand. So Thunder shot was pretty decent. Chad throwing this out. I'm sorry, Mason, not Chad. And this was also a pretty good shot. It held a little bit too straight, actually, but still in a good position. And this was not a good shot. This hit really early right side, and just he made only about 150 feet off the tee, but still in a position to attack. Going over everything. He was talking about throwing a grenade, but he said the ceiling wasn't quite right for that. So he'll have a look at the 3 from there. Thunder also trying to go over everything. We'll see where those end up.
Come on. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Whoa, maybe it's
Mason getting a pretty good good zing to that. He'll end up at, I believe, circle 1 for his 3. Chad also ended up in a great spot for the 3. There you see the basket, about 80 feet further away from where the other tee was, or other one was. Giving that a good forehand flick run. Thunder ended up a little bit long, so pretty good shot. And just a little bit low for his 3. Chad chaining out. Very unfortunate miss.
Flip the caliper. Yeah.
Silas for his 4.
spot.
Mason for his 3. Very good. And Thunder for his 4. This must have been a par 4. I'm just going crazy. Don't worry about me. Moving on to hole 15. Hole 15, this is a legitimate par 4. I believe this is somewhere around 480 feet. So you've got pretty much a tunnel shot to get out into the opening. You probably have to throw about 250 or so feet over this pile of mulch, or mulch if you're American. Yeah, and around here is an okay tee shot, and then further up around here is a pretty good tee shot, and then anything past this is amazing. So it's pretty much a straight shot. Again, Chautauqua Park, they love those straight shots. Hardest shot in disc golf. But it's pretty much 480 or so feet straight ahead. Uphill and then downhill. And then it's got this nice little shaded basket, so no OB as far as I'm aware of. Let's see what Mason does. Throwing this out, and he ends up in a good spot. If you're left on that side of the road, it just opens up a hyzer so you don't have to try and finagle something straight. Thunder hitting really, really early and ending up in a terrible spot. He'll have a pitch out, or if he tries to go crazy, he introduces a lot more error. And you see the rain is chilling out a little bit, so that's nice. Okay, so 596, so not 480. Chad piping this down pretty straight. Ideally, you'd end up a little further to the left, but that should still be fine.
That'll work.
Silas up now, trying to coax some life into his fingers. Trying to dry him off a little bit. And this is a pretty good shot. He ends up in a nice spot.
Keep traveling. Keep going.
And Thunder really out of position, pitching out to the fairway. Really unfortunate. Shedding a layer now that it's stopped raining.
Ooh, some snakes bird in there.
Throwing the roller. Really risky play. Hitting a little bit of trees, but you hear him talking. It's still going.
Oh, what?
That might hit.
It's still wind, huh?
Yeah.
Chad a little bit short of where you'd ideally like to be. And unfortunately getting this turned over too much. So it'll be an okay spot. He'll have a look at the birdie, but not ideal. Mason trying to ring up the eagle here. Absolutely amazing shot. And then you see how much easier it is on the left side, especially for us right-handed players. And Silas just piping one down the middle and easy up and down there. Tap in, par. Don't hit your head on the basket. Thunder for his par, hopefully.
Oh, God.
Giving us a great bid, but he will have a 10-foot bogey. Chad for his birdie. Left this pretty short of the basket, unfortunately. Oh, just a little bit low. Our players tapping in their birdies, their pars, and their bogey. Thunder not taking any chances with this putt. And we move on to hole 16. Hole 16, par 3, somewhere around 350 or so feet. It is pretty downhill most of the way, so maybe doesn't play quite as long as that, but you got a pretty straight shot. Wow, what a surprise, isn't it? A straight shot here at Chautauqua Park? Ha! Unheard of. Anyway, straight tunnel shot. There's not a whole lot going on either the left or right side. I believe there's an OB road far to the right, and then behind the basket, I believe that road is OB. I may be incorrect there. And then a slightly elevated hill there with the basket on top of it. Pretty fast green. Mason willingness to turn, unfortunately turning straight into that tree. And he'll have a circle 2 putt for his birdie. Silas getting a pretty good turn here, but unfortunately started fading out right in front of the basket. He'll have about the same look that Mason has. Chad turning this one over. He'll actually end up in a pretty decent spot, probably about 20 or so feet to the right. Out of the hand, this looked really good. Unfortunately, hitting that little frickin' pencil branch there and kicking straight down. Really unfortunate reaction. And ending up there on his upshot, hitting that tree again, or hitting another tree, excuse me. Chad for his 2. Oh, very fluttery. Not the bit he wanted. Mason to save the 2. All day. Beautiful putt. Mason was all over the basket today. Silas also for 2. 2 great putts. Thunder to save his 3. Unfortunately, very committed but too low. Tapping in his 4. And Chad tapping in his par. Moving on to hole 17, par 4. This is like 600 feet. We're actually playing a lot further away or further behind than this pad. This was the old pro pad. New pro pad is way harder, way more of a tunnel shot, and then you have this 15-foot cliff to throw over. So that adds an extra bit of difficulty here. Once you do get out, it is pretty open, a pretty easy hyzer, right hand, backhand, or left hand, forehand hyzer. That is a sloping downhill though, so if you get something fast and it starts to skip, it'll probably skip all the way down to the road, which is OB because that is like a highway or an interstate or something like that. Not an interstate, that doesn't make any sense. Mason up first. Really unfortunate. Absolutely horrendous kick. Just trying to shrug it off. Silas up now. Getting something nice and flippy. Ended up in a good spot, I believe.
There it is.
Chad throwing his champion beast, I believe.
Slowed it down.
Or boss, I'm sorry, not beast. Getting really lucky over on the left side, missing his line completely, but
Chad
getting
line.
a good shot anyway.
Oh, Chad. Yep, Chad line. Knew it.
Thunder throwing way too low to even get over, but I don't think that was his plan. I think he was playing the layup to the
Martin
cliff.
said Dustin was gonna play, but his wife didn't give him permission.
Mason really far out of position. He basically didn't make any forward progress. Another cameo from the umbrella there. Yeah, good. For being so far out of position, that was a fantastic out.
That's great. That's great. At least we'll get a bogey from there.
Thunder ended up in a pretty decent spot for where he was, but not amazing, unfortunately. Mason also ended up in an okay spot. There you see his disc circle 2. Silas ended up on the right at the amp pad, top of the hill, throwing the stock hyzer. And getting a little bit of skip, but not as much as you would prefer. But it should be alright. Probably about a 15-20 footer. Chad ended up really close to these trees. And he should have a pretty decent look here. And Mason giving us a pretty decent run, but just a little too wide. We'll have to tap in bogey. Thunder very committed, just fading out a little bit too much. Oh my gosh, he skipped. I forgot Chad skipped all the way down here. Oh, hitting the band, not connecting for the birdie. Silas just tapping in, casual birdie. Thunder for his par, I believe. Moving on to hole 18, probably the easiest hole. Somewhere along the lines of like 300 or so feet. It plays almost entirely downhill, so most of our players are probably going to throw a putter or a mid-range. And it's a pretty tough shot. There's a lot of trees. You basically have to throw a hyzer around everything, or if you want to try and go through the middle gap, you got to get it really straight. So the drone kind of showing us that hyzer line, and it's just, you see all these trees and all these little leaves, these little spindly sticks that'll catch your disc and kill them dead. And then here you've got the green, so it's not horrible. It's a bowl shape, so if you throw your disc down here, it's going to end up in the middle-ish, and you'll have an easy up and down, but ideally you'll give it an ace run because it's pretty safe. So let's see what our players do. Always nice to get some appreciation for the camera. A cameo from my voice.
Thank you for coming and filming with us.
Hey, you're welcome.
I had a 5, 3, Chad. 4.
Silas throwing that hyzer line. He had given it a great run. Chad to follow it up. Also giving it a good run. Thunder a little bit short, but he'll have a look at it. Mason leaving this pretty wide. Not really in a position for the birdie, but it's an easy 3. Yep, giving it a great run, but it's so hard when you're right behind that tree. Thunder for his 2. Just a little bit low. Silas for his birdie. All day. Mason tapping in his par. Chad with the ace run. Tap in his birdie. And that'll leave us with Thunder to tap in his par. And that will finish up round 2 of the Chautauqua Park Open. Hopefully catch you round 2.